Today, the Seattle police chief resigns after a slashed police budget, a shooting outside the White House yesterday, and black leaders tell Joe Biden, pick a black female VP or lose. We've got a lot coming up, and it starts right now. Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sarah Gonzalez, today joined by, once again, America's favorite cowboy, Chad Prather, host of the Chad Prather Show on BlazeTV.
Good to be back.
Denim on, is it denim?
It's denim on denim.
Denim on denim.
Yes.
I just thought I'd point
Tuxedo in certain areas of the country.
With
there they are,
Yeah,
with the red shoes
Yeah,
that he's
there you
been
go.
flashing around the studio this week. Also joined by Grant Stinchfield, host of Newsmax's Saturday Report. Thanks for being here as well.
Good to see you Saturday.
Good to see.
Well, I said good to see you Saturday because you're going to be with me Saturday.
Yes, I am. I am, yes, and I'm looking forward to it. So let's get to what's going on in Seattle. I find it to be very interesting. Seattle Police Chief Carmen Best, who, of course, has denounced the mob rule going on in Seattle that has been going on since all of these Black Lives Matter protests started. Black Lives Matter riots started, and has, of course, been targeted by aggressive protesters. She finally announced her resignation last night. Now, this was hours after a city council meeting took place, and the city council voted 7-1 to cut the police department annual budget by $3 million, which will reduce the department's force by 100 officers. By the way, most of those 100 officers are people of color. So Black Lives Matter doing what they do best, getting minorities out of jobs, apparently, because we've got a bunch of minority police officers who will now be out of a job, and the black female police chief who has been pushed to resign, of course, because of council actions. Chad, your thoughts?
You know, I've always said when we build a wall on the southern border, that there are certain places we need to build a wall around that too, and in certain sections of Seattle and certainly Portland and some of the bigger cities in California and things like that, because it's insane. I'd say let them have it. You want it? Let them have it. Give them their little area, give them their spot, let them do their thing, and give them 6 weeks, and they'll all murder each other. It'll all be done. I mean, chest, chop. I mean, that lasted 5 days before the first homicide. So, let them have it. The issue is authority, right? People don't want authority, but you can't have authority unless you're under authority. And at some point in time, you're going to be placed under authority. So I would much rather have somebody that's there with authority over me to serve and protect than, to have the warlord who's going to take over the streets, which is exactly what's going to happen in just a matter of time if you continue these shenanigans. I will remind everybody, Black Lives Matter was started by 3 Marxist lesbians that have no intention of doing anything for the black community. In 7 years, they've raised $1 billion, and they're not doing anything for communities such as this.
Grant.
No, well, one, he's right, and it's going to organizations that fund the Democratic Party, much of the money being raised by Black Lives Matter. But what makes me sad is that, all right, you push out Carmen Best, a police chief who, by the way, is not some conservative law and order police chief. This is about as liberal as a police chief as it gets. So now you push her out, and as you mentioned, Sarah, you're going to have all of these officers who are going to be out of a job, mostly minority officers. There was a push a long time ago, and still is in many cities, to hire minority officers. So we wanted more minority, our police department to be more representative of the community we serve. Fine. So Seattle goes and clearly does that. And so now these officers are going to be let go. Maybe it'll be attrition that they leave through. But either way, my heart goes out to the officers who are sticking around.
Yeah.
And do I really want to tell those officers to leave? I've said I'd have real problems, my son going into law enforcement today, not because I don't think it's a noble job, it certainly is, but because I'm more afraid of what City Hall will do to him than some thug on the street will do to him. I know when he gets older, he'd be able to handle himself against the thug. You can't handle yourself against a liberal mayor.
Yeah.
So what do you tell the city? If you tell every police officer to leave, well, you leave good Americans who are hungry for law enforcement to be there for them out to dry. So I feel sorry for the officers that are sticking around.
Yeah, that is a great point, because it certainly will affect the recruits that come in after that. What kind of people are you going to get at that point if you're pushing away all of the officers who are doing the right thing.
That's my new phrase of the week. You can fight a thug, you can't fight a liberal mayor. I'm telling you, those are wise and true words, and they're being proven day in and day out in these cities. I know so many police officers in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, good men and women who they say, man, I'm done. I just can't do this anymore. We have no support. We can't go out and do it. So I can, and that's Texas. I can only imagine what places like Seattle are experiencing. And let me remind everybody, that's a beautiful city. It's a beautiful place, beautiful food, beautiful culture, beautiful people. But golly, bureaucracy sure has a way of tearing things apart, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's insane.
You mentioned Chaz. Do you guys remember when they thought that they were autonomous? And they were like, we want to form an autonomous zone. Oh, wait, that means we have to be self-sufficient. Never mind. Right. We don't want to form an autonomous zone. Please continue bringing us food and water. Funny how things change.
And by the way, they built a wall around it, and they were checking IDs to get in and out of it. I mean,
I was told that was racist.
Yeah. Right.
I was told that was racist. All right, so President Trump got caught in kind of a weird moment yesterday. He was giving a media briefing, and in the middle of the media briefing, he was stopped by the Secret Service, who indicated that gunshots had been fired outside of the White House. Here is a little bit of what that looked like.
It looks like they're just about going to be topping records, hopefully soon. Excuse me?
Love it.
Now, we were talking, I was talking to Chad about this earlier. The reports that surfaced first, of course, you never know the accuracy of the reports, but, they said shots fired outside the White House. They said the Secret Service had actually shot someone who had come close to the White House with a gun. But then Chad, you said later that
there was no firearm found on the person, but he did make a drawing motion as he charged Secret Service, and he went into a firing position. So they shot him in the torso. So that's the situation. And the interesting thing that I heard earlier today is there are certain people in the media who are actually questioning whether or not Donald Trump set this whole thing up. Like this was staged in order to make him look good. So that's power right there. Yeah. If you can tell the Secret Service, hey, go find a bum to charge you so you can shoot him.
Right.
Shoot to wound him, right?
Yeah.
Just so we can interrupt this whole thing and the cameras will go off and it gives us a moment and I can come back out and say, do I look rattled?
Which he did. Okay, so Chad just referenced afterwards, President Trump. You got to give kudos to him for coming back out, starting the press conference over, and answering questions as dumb as they may have been. Here was a little bit of what that looked like.
In a little while, we'll have a full report.
Are you rattled by this at all, Mr. President?
I don't know. Do I seem rattled? It's unfortunate that this is a world, but the world's always been a dangerous place.
I only live in the most secure building in the entire world, surrounded by men who will kill you if you come anywhere near me. No, the president is not rattled by this. I mean, that's crazy.
Oh, what's funny is when they tell him, he's just like, oh. Yeah. And he walks off with him,
Very calmly.
Do you know what it reminded me of, though? As a TV host, and I'm sure you've been there, where something happens in your ear, you lose prompter, and then you don't know, should I tell the viewers that something's wrong, right? I know you've been there on your show. Should I tell them I'm wrong, or should I just try to fake it to get there? Well, Trump just kind of faked it to get there and then leaves. I would rather him have just turned and said, hey, there's a little situation outside the White House. The Secret Service, they get very reactive about stuff like this and protecting me. I got to leave. I'm going to come right back, right? You have the president pulled out. Instantly, you're thinking 9/11.
Yeah.
You're thinking, the president just got pulled out of a live press conference.
Well, and there were people who pointed out, you can hear the Secret Service agent say shots fired. So then people start speculating on that. And that's not a good situation for anyone.
No.
So what are your thoughts, Grant, on what Chad brought up, which is the latest conspiracy theory that Donald Trump, apparently the dumbest man on the face of the planet to the left, but also at the same time a complete mastermind at everything that he does, concocts some crazy plan to make a shooting up at the White House, I guess?
Well, Chad's right. This is what they do on every story out there, whether it's Russian collusion and he's a bumbling idiot, yet he's a mastermind when it comes to rigging elections and all of these things. So that's utterly ridiculous. I mean, how do you even respond to a stupid-ass story like that? Come on. Like, the president's going to do that? And it doesn't make any sense, and they're grasping at straws, but they'll throw that stuff out there because I promise you there are those on the left that will believe it. They'll literally believe it, and they'll only believe it because Don Lemon told them it was true.
Yeah.
And I'm here to tell you, anything that comes out of his mouth, do not believe it's true. It's the opposite that should be happening.
Right.
But this is what we're up against. They just make up lies. When the truth does not work for you, you're only left with one other option, and that's to lie. Make up stories.
Yeah.
Constitution doesn't work for you. They don't believe it exists. So make up lies.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Chad, on Donald Trump? When was it? The end of last week when he made the comment that he may be doing more things from inside the White House because he had
see me so much in the days to come.
Yeah, there were a lot of people out there who
A lot of rich people,
a lot of
influential people with a lot of money, and so you might not be seeing that much of me anymore. I don't know. I think that's some of Donald Trump's theatrics that go on. Here's a guy who can sit on the toilet at 3 a.m. and tweet something out and control the news cycle for 36 hours. He knows the power he wields. He's like a laser pointer to cats, and they're all over it. They run all over the place. They're trying to get to what he means. I mean, what is he saying? What is this? And they parse every verb and they diagram every sentence that he says. And it's just Donald Trump being Donald Trump. He knows how to play him. I mean, for instance, you talk about, well, I don't know, do I seem rattled? Had he said yes, well, we know what would have happened there.
Right.
Had he just said no, they would have questioned that. So he had to throw it. I mean, that's the genius, if you will, of Donald Trump, of being just the master troll that he is. So when he says things like that, now I didn't just say no, I gave you something to talk about.
Right.
For another 2 days.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, we jumped right on and made a T-shirt of it. I mean, we capitalized on it. We jumped right on it and said, do I seem rattled? And there's Donnie T on the shirt.
Yeah, which you can get.
We don't waste time, man.
WatchChad.com for that shirt. We've got more to come. First, we want to thank our sponsor this segment, iTarget Pro. Some of you may still be living in places where you can't get to the gun range, or you got to go through all these crazy steps and wear a mask and go do all these things. Well, you're in luck because iTarget Pro, you can practice your firing with your own personal weapon from the comfort of your own home. It is one of the best ways to dry fire train with your gun, and you can use their proprietary app. You download it to your iPhone or whatever phone you have, and the laser bullet that they have. Yes, I said laser bullet, and it is as cool as it sounds. It will pay for itself in the money that you will save in not only ammunition, but gun range fees and dry fire training. It helps develop muscle memory. It helps with target reaction speed. It helps with trigger function. Every gun, every pull is different. My 380 that I have, it feels like it literally takes 10 million years to pull the trigger, and you got to stay sharp with your firearms these days, because even if you live in the suburbs, you never know when some Black Lives Matter riot is going to come start in your neighborhood, and you got to be prepared. Well, you can do that with iTarget Pro. Yeah, no, don't be like the St. Louis gun couple.
The McCloskeys.
Yes,
They don't knock
flagging
the
each other.
McCloskeys.
Don't knock the McCloskeys.
They've been great and heroes now. They needed training.
They just
Yeah,
need
they
some
needed
training.
But
They just need
boy,
some
they
training.
are. I feel bad.
No, I do too. But they did need some training. You got to go to itargetpro.com. You can get 10% off right now, plus free shipping if you use the offer code NEWS. I'm telling you guys, it pays for itself. It's so fun. You can turn it into a family affair, have everyone out in the living room and do a little target practice, a little friendly competition there. It is itargetpro.com/news. Back in a minute. All right, breaking news. As of the time of this taping, we talked about at the beginning of the show, I said, Democrat, it was a list of black people, black men, who had signed a letter who were like, you better pick a black VP, female Joe Biden, or you're going to lose. Well, apparently, Joe Biden listened to them. He just finally announced today, this afternoon, who his vice presidential pick is. And the drum roll, please. Let's watch. And there it is. It is officially a Joe Biden, Kamala Harris ticket. Joe Biden just tweeted out as well, I have the great honor to announce that I've picked Kamala Harris, a fearless fighter for the little guy and one of the country's finest public servants, as my running mate. Back when Kamala was Attorney General, she worked closely with Beau. I watched as they took on big banks, lifted up working people, and protected women and kids from abuse. I was proud then, and I'm proud now to have her as my partner in this campaign. It's really weird because I didn't see him mention all of the minorities that she put in jail for lengthy sentences, but I guess he just kind of skipped over that.
I'm going to follow the NRA's lead. He clearly did not write that tweet.
No.
It's in complete sentences.
Yeah.
It's written in complete sentences. That's what the NRA said about one of his tweets before.
Yeah.
This is a nightmare. And as a Second Amendment guy, Kamala Harris you can't even call her anti-gun. She wants the Second Amendment repealed. She has worked most of her career to disarm the law-abiding and give felons a pass when it comes to gun crimes. This is bad news on that front. It's bad news for anybody who likes freedom. And this woman, she's been open about what she wants for America, and she wants a bigger government out to control you and to control your every move. And so he picks Kamala Harris because it checks a few boxes. One, color and sex.
Yeah.
Right? That's how you pick a VP today? Fine, Democrats, have at it. Because let's now go have a debate on the issues.
Chad.
Well, she's not black, and that's the problem. So the AP on November 9th, 2016, wrote a story, the headline of which says, in the Business Insider, it says, California's Kamala Harris becomes first Indian-American U.S. Senator. So I guess based on what those black guys said, he ain't going to win because she ain't black. But again, you know, he's the authority on who's black and who's not black, if you remember.
Well, wasn't it her that someone published a story about how her ancestors in Jamaica owned slaves? Mm-hmm. That was her.
Yeah, and even her father came out and saying, no, you're not. You're Jamaican. You're not black.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're not African American. So you can't claim that.
Well, you are what you say you are.
These days, well, I mean,
if
you're up for VP, I guess you can determine you're a lot of things. But I mean, I remember I think it was the first debate, the Democratic debate. She really busted him in the cojones quite a bit over the busing thing, right? She really came at him and she said, "Look, I don't think you're a racist, but you've done a lot of racist stuff in your life, Joe." Well, we've seen him say a lot of racist things over time, and it's just gotten worse. It's like, what can he say this week that's racist? Mm-hmm. So I just go back to the fact she ain't black. Yeah. You ain't black.
How do you think, Grant, how does this dynamic play out? Because as Chad just brought up, I shouldn't say they were going at each other. She was going at him hard in those primaries.
Joe's been around politics long enough to know it's a big boy game, and that's what happens during primary races. Look at President Trump and all the people that were throwing bombs at him and are now part of his administration now. I mean, that's just the way politics plays. I think for Joe Biden, though, what is the bigger concern is Kamala Harris could overshadow him. Joe Biden, I know we joke about not getting a sentence. He cannot get a sentence out in a complete fashion. Yeah. Kamala Harris is going to overshadow Joe Biden. And if you're running for president of the United States, you don't want your vice president overshadowing you. Mm-hmm. You're supposed to be the president of the United States, not her. So there's that dynamic, and I don't think Joe Biden's going to be happy when he sees Kamala Harris out there running around spouting her mouth off, and he's still stuck in his basement. Mm.
Can you have a successful Democrat campaign in 2020 running on a ticket where your vice president is known as being tough on crime?
This is a fluke, though. She wasn't tough on crime.
But she's known as being
She was
tough
pegged
on
as
crime.
being
That's
tougher
what I
on
said.
crime for a Democrat. But
Right.
this is not a woman who's tough on crime. And so
But to the Democrats, holding anyone accountable for law breaking is not allowed.
They'll flip-flop on this. So they'll just totally ignore all of that because it worked when they wanted to pin her that way. Now they'll just change reality. This is what Democrats do. They just change the truth
For
to
themselves.
whatever story they want.
Yeah.
And so look, while gun felons are running around free in California, I will tell you that Kamala Harris was still a very progressive, I don't even like that word, a liberal district attorney there.
Yeah. Chad, what do you think?
Well, I agree with Grant. I mean, you just flip-flop the story on what the standard is anymore, right? I mean, when we talk about her being hard on crime, we're talking about people who were smoking marijuana, right, in California. So, I mean, that was such a minor thing, and she was so hard on that, supposedly. That's the way they tried to paint her. And now they'll just flip it, and they'll just forget any of that stuff exists, and that's the problem that we have, because there's no standard anymore. There's no standard of truth. You can't, the rules of the game always change.
I would love for a reporter to literally ask Kamala Harris, Senator, what do you think when Joe Biden says, if you're not black and you don't vote for me, you ain't black? What do you think that he says African Americans don't have the diversity of Latinos? Is that not racist coming out of an old man's mouth? Like, I want someone to literally put her on record asking, what did you think when Joe Biden said that? And I want to watch her dance around that. And it'll be comedy.
Well, I don't know who in the mainstream media would have the guts to ask that
Nobody's
question.
going to ask that. Nobody's going to do. You know, I've said over and over again, I want to do a comedy sketch of what it would look like in a debate and the softball questions that would come to Joe Biden compared to what they would ask of Donald Trump in that situation. Because they'd be like, did your leg hairs really lay down in the water? I mean, it'd be that kind of nonsense that would go on. They're not going to ask any real questions to either one of them.
What is it? I'm trying to figure out in my head what a Pence-Harris debate looks like. And I can't even, I mean, Mike Pence is just
Kamala Harris is not dumb.
No, she's not at all.
And she will be very formidable. She will be very formidable on a debate stage. And
Pence
I'm glad,
is so well-mannered.
I'm glad Kamala Harris is not debating President Trump. I mean, those two would go at it back and forth, and you know, the fireworks would be there. She will be a tough debater. For Mike Pence. Mike Pence is such a nice guy, but he's also a smart guy. You know, he is totally underestimated. He may be the most underestimated vice president in the history of the United States. You don't hear much about him, but behind the scenes, that guy is doing a lot to keep America, one, safe, and keep this country on track.
But that's what I worry about, is that it's all behind the scenes and people don't see it.
And Mike Pence doesn't have the personality that American politics demands right now. So, you know, Donald Trump's changed the game for all of that. It's not about what necessarily comes out of your mouth. It's the perception of it. Kamala dancing down the street with the, you know, doing the thing, and her big laugh that she does. And when Chuck Schumer got on to her for laughing at an inappropriate time, she rolls her eyes at Chuck, you know. That kind of thing is what people look at. Those are the sound bites and the clips and the media spots that people remember. Mike, so stoic, you know, the vice president's so stoic, but he's so smart. And if you'll just listen, but I said it on yesterday's program, people don't know how to think critically or with any complexity of thought anymore. So to listen to someone versus to watch somebody's shenanigans, unfortunately, that's where we're at in American politics today.
Yeah. Well, I just hope that maybe her PR person told her, just laugh just a little bit less. Like, you don't have to laugh at every single thing that you ever say, maybe, because it's a little bit creepy. We've got more coming up. First, we want to thank our sponsor, this segment, Home Title Lock. So you may not know this, but there's a little crime, and it's called home title theft, and the FBI calls it one of the fastest growing crimes in the country. So what happens is that your home's title is kept online, like everything is these days, and that means that it is sitting out there vulnerable for a cyber thief to just come in and grab it off the internet, and then they can forge your name on the deed, stating that you've actually sold your home, and then they can refile as the new owner, and all of your equity, all of your retirement nest egg just goes just like that. It vanishes. They can literally evict you from your own home before you even know that they've gone and pretended like it's sold. I know it sounds like this crazy Lifetime movie, but it's real. And what's even scarier is that no bank program, no identity theft program, nothing protects you but Home Title Lock. Home Title Lock puts a virtual barrier around your home's title. The instant they detect tampering, they will mobilize to shut it down. Now, you've got to go to Home Title Lock, register your address, see if you're already a victim. Don't wait until it's too late. You can manage the situation before it's too late if you go to Home Title Lock and register your address. Use promo code Y, that's WHY, for 30 free days of protection. That is HomeTitleLock.com. Promo code Y, HomeTitleLock.com. Vladimir Putin says that Russia has approved the world's first coronavirus vaccine. And he said a vaccine against coronavirus has been registered for the first time in the world this morning. I know that it works quite effectively. It forms a stable immunity. It has passed all the necessary tests. We must be grateful to those who made the very first step, important for our country and the entire world. Of course, he wants the international market to get in on it. And he also added that one of his daughters received the vaccine and said that it initially it elevated her temperature, but now she feels well and has a high number of antibodies. No word yet on if she has grown a third arm. Chad.
It tastes like a vitamin C. It tastes like a lemon.
That's some accent.
Can you imagine? I wouldn't take anything. Well, I mean, first of all, they can't keep the power on over there, and you don't want to smoke near the Volga River. The thing might ignite.
No, his daughter says it works.
Exactly.
His daughter says it works.
He gave it to his daughter. What? Right. No word on whether or not he took it himself.
I smoked cigarette in your ass. So, yeah, I mean, I can't see myself taking that.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll be watching Rachel Maddow tonight, and the report will be that President Trump has volunteered to take the Russian-Chinese virus vaccine.
Yeah.
Well,
right,
it will be an interesting conversation because, I mean, how do you navigate that if you're President Trump?
Mm-hmm. You say I don't trust Russia.
Right before an election.
Yeah, I mean, you say I don't trust Russia.
But then Rachel Maddow says President Trump wants more Americans to die because he will not accept the vaccine. Mm-hmm. That is a total no-win situation for the president when it comes to the media.
In his attempt to distance himself from longtime ally Vladimir Putin, he is willing to risk American lives.
It goes both ways. Sarah's point, though, goes both ways.
It does.
Because now you've got to put the mainstream media on Russia's side that the vaccine is good.
Yeah. Yes.
Right? So.
But as you said, there is no truth. They will play both sides to their advantage.
Who is this Maddow person? Of which you speak?
Speaking of coronavirus and coronavirus-related news, we'll start domestically, and then if we have time, we can go back to an international sphere of coronavirus. So New York's official count of nursing home residents who died after Andrew Cuomo, of course, forced the facilities to accept coronavirus-positive patients could actually be a significant undercount, according to the Associated Press. They said that New York so far, which, by the way, I'm talking about the same New York whose totals are like, a third of the entire country's coronavirus deaths. I mean, we're not talking a small amount, even though the mainstream media would lead you to believe that Texas and Florida are the ones with the large number of cases. New York still takes the cake for that when you're talking about deaths. And the New York numbers only counts nursing home residents who died on the property in their tally of nursing home fatalities, meaning residents who were transported to a hospital before they died to the virus are actually not being counted in all of these death counts for nursing homes. So the AP says, how big of a difference could this make? Let's see. Federal regulators have required nursing homes to submit data each week, whether or not residents died in the facility or at a hospital. Because the requirement came after the height of the outbreak, the available data is relatively small, but roughly a fifth of the state's homes reported resident deaths from early June to mid-July, a tally of 323 dead, 65% higher than the state's count of 195 during that time period. So even if half that undercount has held true from the start of the pandemic, that would translate into thousands more nursing home resident deaths than the state has acknowledged. But hey, CNN tells us, Chris Cuomo, in fact, on CNN, yucking it up with his brother with the big giant cotton swab. CNN would tell us that New York's fine. Dr. Fauci himself would tell you that New York is a great example of how to handle this pandemic. Yet the counts should be even higher in New York.
Governor Nipple Studs. At what point in time who's going to be held accountable for this thing, right?
Trump. Nobody else.
Andrew Cuomo is a mass murderer.
Yeah.
He's a mass murderer. Let's call it what it is. He did what he did, knowing what he knew, and he still put those people in those nursing homes to the point where your health director pulls the parents out. His parents out because he knows coronavirus people, positively infected people are going in. These people knew what they were doing. That's mass murder. I would call it a serial killer, but this is mass murder.
Yeah, Grant, I feel like it goes to your point that you made earlier that I just referenced, which is Democrats don't have to, they don't get held to their standard.
None of this is going to ever matter.
Right.
You worry, oh my gosh, I can't believe there's going to be twice as many. Well, they don't care.
They don't care.
They'll just ignore the whole story. And so now there's a whole push to investigate how this happened. Cuomo says, we don't need an investigation. And then you go to the health department, New York State Health Department website. They've pulled the order down that he had saying put these people into the nursing homes. They've pulled that down, yet still on the New York City Health Department website, the order remains that you don't need masks for kids. They left that up there from the beginning times. Now, of course, that's changed in New York. But they pull that because they're covering for him. So they'll have the government cover for him. They'll have the media cover for him. And that's all you need to have cover for you because nobody else will get the story then.
New Zealand, across the pond over in New Zealand, they had their largest city actually locked down after a whopping 4 people tested positive for coronavirus. So 4 people.
First 4 people in 100 days. So they locked her down.
Yeah, totally locked back down over 102 days, I believe, coronavirus free. And now they're worried because I think they said that these people had not traveled out of the country. And so now the entire state is locked down again. What could possibly go wrong?
A bunch of pansies. I'm so sick of people living in fear. They live their lives in fear, and we're doing it in the United States. We're a bunch of wussies. I thought the wussification of America was well underway before the Chinese virus hit. Now I watch everybody scared little nitwits hiding in their homes. Come on.
Well, that's like the Prime Minister of New Zealand is the Prime Minister or President? Prime Minister, I believe. She says if you're at a level 3, make sure you stay home in your bubble.
In your bubble.
Right. So what's going on in Australia and New Zealand, 2 very different countries, but a lot of the same things happening. Very big Gestapo tactics, especially in Australia. That's what happens when they take your guns away. And you're saying, well, we don't have the mass shootings in Australia that you have down here. Yeah, but guess what? When it comes time for the governor or the government to start dictating to you your rights and your freeds and stuff, you don't have a right to defend yourself. They can just come right in and shut you down, and that's exactly what's happening. Because hey, you've lost your ability to defend yourself. But you're right, man. People have gotten so weak. I call it safetyism. It's safetyism. It's the kids that we couldn't let them scrape their knee growing up. We couldn't let them, get a black eye from a fight. They didn't stand up to the bully. They were sent to timeout, and they went outside to play dressed like the Michelin Man with a helmet on. We were so scared anything was going to happen to them. And now all of a sudden, this virus, this pandemic comes along, and they're like, oh my God, we're all going to die from this. Our insides are going to melt and come out of our orifices, and it's a little sister to the flu. People, you're gonna be okay, unless you got a governor like Cuomo that's going to stick you in a nursing home and infect people who are Already got a foot in the grave.
Or you weigh 300 pounds and
You weigh
have
300
diabetes.
pounds, yeah.
Then you stay home, but don't make me stay home.
That's what gets me. I'm glad that you brought that up. That's what gets me about all of this is that nowhere in the conversation when all of the experts want to compare numbers, you know, America versus Europe or China or, you know, any of the Asian countries, nowhere are we talking about the difference in health or obesity,
right,
or, you know, the fact that Americans are sick and they're fat. Right. And why would that not be part of the conversation when we're talking about whether or not we're susceptible to a disease? It's all Trump's fault.
Because fat is beautiful now. We put it on the cover of the Sports Illustrated swimsuit magazine. It's beautiful. You can't fat shame anybody. How dare you say that obesity is not a good thing? I mean, you can't fat shame me.
So it's not just it's a post-science world now.
Well, it is a postmodern philosophy. It is. I interpret reality as I see fit according to the way I feel.
But they used to say science mattered. That was the only thing that mattered. We're supposed to change our entire world because some scientists said that the world was getting too hot or too cold, depending on what year you're asking them. Science is everything, and now science is nothing.
Arteries are beautiful now. They are beautiful. They're very slick. They've got some goo in there, which makes it very juicy.
Ugh.
And juicy is sexy. It's the new sexy. What's that word when you want to get loose? Juicy, juicy.
Okay, I think it's time for a break. We'll be back.
Thank you, Sarah.
Researchers from Duke recently developed a very simple method to test the effectiveness, we're talking about the coronavirus earlier, to test the effectiveness of various commonly available masks and alternative face coverings. And they actually found that wearing a net gaiter may be worse than no mask at all, which is very interesting to me because, you know, you see all these signs. I was walking in an office building the other day and I saw this sign, no citation, no sources. And it had, you know, the two mouths on each side. And then like both mouths were uncovered and it said 90% chance of transmission from person to person. And then it went down the line and it was like one person's mouth was covered and one wasn't. But it was all just a face covering. That's all that we hear about, right? A face covering. You have to wear a face covering. A face covering. A face covering is a face covering is a face covering. And it's like what we've been saying this whole time. Obviously these aren't all effective. It's all arbitrary. Now the research proves it. But again, science doesn't matter.
So I'm glad you brought this up because I was walking through the mall, North Park in Dallas. Mm-hmm. And it was crowded. And I was glad to see it was crowded.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And everybody's wearing their masks, right? Because you have to go in. Mm-hmm. The hallways are really crowded in the mall. But then they have lines to go in, and like the Lego store, you can have two people in the Lego store. Now, my question is, if you're wearing a mask, why do you need to social distance? So if everybody's wearing a mask, why can't everybody just go in the store?
Well, that's what they kept telling us was either
wear a mask
yes,
or social distance. But now you're having me wear a mask and social distance. You're killing the economy. I use the Lego store in Dallas because my son loves going in there. Mm-hmm. You know, that little tiny store out of 1,200 square feet is like the highest grossing Lego store in the country in North Park Mall. They now have to have two people come in at a time in this Lego store and pick out their $19.99 Lego or their $800 Lego, whichever it is you buy them. But two people, that is going to be crushing to the Lego store, to Macy's, to whatever that's keeping people out. Mm-hmm. My only question is there was a line outside of the Louis Vuitton store. I'm like, who the hell is spending all this money at the Louis Vuitton store unless it's the $600 they get every month, every week? And
I don't know.
But she makes big bucks here. I mean, she deserves every penny of it.
1%er, but she's a POC, so shut up.
But seriously.
Okay, so do masks, do they make a difference? You know, I have a medical professional who lives in my house. I will not say her name. And she loves to say, well, masks do make a difference. Okay, they make a difference, but do they do any good?
And what kind of mask?
I mean,
not all masks are created equal.
And people, well, I'm not getting into that, but I know a lot about masks. I was in the mask industry for a number of years, right? So I know a lot about masks. It's not a facetious statement. It really is true.
Masking tape.
Yeah, right? I wish you were that simple. Just tape some mouths shut. But Look, I mean, let's take a post-pubescent kid. Let's put a condom on him because we never know what's going to come out of that. I mean, is it going to stop fluids? Yeah, it's going to. I mean, theoretically, yeah, it's going to stop everything that comes out of there. So will it do to make a difference? Yeah, that'll make a difference. It blocks fluids. So, okay, I've spent my entire life talking to you, spitting on you. I'm doing it right now, for crying out loud. We're having a conversation. There's no telling what's coming out of me. Should I be wearing a mask?
Or what you're saying is put a condom over your head.
Over your entire body.
Any more ideas?
You remember Naked Gun with the old Leslie Nielsen movie and Priscilla Presley where they start making love and they're wearing the full body condoms
That's
right
what
there?
we need.
Man, they were prophetic. They knew what was coming and what we really needed. We just need to wrap the whole world in a prophylactic and just go on about our business.
She's not old enough to even know that word, probably.
Well, she's pregnant, so she obviously doesn't know what it's for.
Oh, man.
It's
always fun, Grant.
It just kills me. It just kills me. You look at these studies and you're like, oh, kind of like what we've been saying this entire time.
The gaiter said it didn't block enough, right? The gaiter came out in big drops.
Yes.
That hung in the air longer or something like that.
Yes, exactly. But again, all of the laws, all of these mask mandates that are put into place are completely arbitrary. I mean, my husband looks like he's about to rob a bank every time he goes to the store. He just puts the bandana up and that counts. And I'm like, I don't think that that's protecting anyone from anything, but it's what a lot of people wear.
Well, our friend Lisa Page, she's got the little thing that you breathe right through it.
It's
the
mesh. It's got holes all over it.
Not that I
Totally
promote
counts.
this, but a buddy of mine posted a video that had a guy pulling a bong hit. And he was wearing his mask. He pulls the bong hit through the mask and then breathes out, and the whole smoke goes everywhere through the mask. Now, if the smoke from that goes through that, you don't think droplets that are micron in size?
Right.
When you sneeze and blow the force out the sides of these surgical masks are going to get out? Mm-hmm. It was a great illustration. Those masks aren't stopping anything.
Nah, they're really not, especially when you start talking about the microns of a virus molecule. I mean, I can fart through my jeans and you're going to get crop dusted, so you're going to know what's coming there. That ain't blocking a damn thing. So, I mean, that's just science.
Well, and then that's not even talking about the people who, I'm just ignoring that part, who are constantly they're adjusting their mask. And then you're at the grocery store and they're touching everything.
So if you want to do some good, the thing to do is get yourself a full face mask. Covers your eyes, covers everything. And I'm serious, a full face mask with cartridges that you breathe through in and out. Okay, it will protect all of your orifices with the exception of your ears, but that's okay. So you want to wear that, and you want to make sure that you get it fit tested, because just because you have the mask doesn't mean the mask works for you. You've got to make sure that it is properly sealed, and you can't wear a beard because no beard. So proper PPE means you can't do any of this. So if you're going to get fit tested, you have to have a clean shaven face.
And if you come in with one of those, I'm punching you in the face.
Well, that's what. So
I've got them at the house. You know why? In case, they drop some real crap on us someday.
Right.
But this, no.
But unlike a liberal,
it won't hurt.
Chad will say, "Thank you for waking me up" when I punch him in the face, instead of a liberal calling the cops, which in there they finally want the cops there when I punch him in the face.
I'll walk out of there with a crack in my full face glass.
All right, we'll be back. I don't know what to do with these guys.
True.
Well, so you could turn that around and say, yesterday's poll, are you satisfied with what President Trump has been able to do in the past 3.5 years, or are you disappointed that he has not been able to enact more campaign promises? 85, almost 86% of you said you are satisfied. 14% said disappointed. I have to believe that those were liberals taking this poll.
I'm disappointed, but it hasn't been President Trump's fault. It's been the Democrats that stood in his way of enacting some of his campaign principles. So I don't know. Does that not fit into the poll?
Yeah, I don't think that was one of the options. Was I'm disappointed, but only because of the liberals. I don't think that was one of the options.
Make my own poll.
Today's poll: will Joe Biden's vice presidential choice have any impact on who people choose to vote for in 2020? That is a great question, especially this year when you got to believe, how long before the vice president becomes the president if Joe Biden wins? 6 months?
When's their convention?
Before he even wins?
Listen, it's a perfect time for Joe to come down with coronavirus. I've said this over and over again.
You still think that's going to happen?
Something's going to happen.
And then does
Something's gonna happen.
Kamala take over?
Look at Vladimir Putin. We talked about him earlier. Do you really think Joe Biden can hold his own with Vladimir Putin in a conversation or some kind of summit or a negotiation or a meeting? There's no way.
Joe Biden can't hold his own with
a teleprompter.
Right.
So
right.
no.
With his pet dog, probably.
There's no way. There's no way.
What do you think, Grant?
I don't know if this has any effect on the election. You know, vice presidential picks usually don't have an effect on the election.
But we've never had a president, presidential person with his foot already in the grave.
This will be a good poll because this may be one of the few polls that you get a 50-50 split on.
Yeah, I think it makes a difference. I think she is a game changer in this. I think that this makes Joe very, very electable now.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's terrible.
There's a lot of people who think not, but I think it makes him much more electable than, say, a Susan Rice, who I was picking.
All right, well, let us know what you think. You can go to The Blaze's Twitter. That is, of course, at The Blaze. Gentlemen, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Sarah.
It's always a pleasure. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
I say that.